I want to show you some strike footage from U.S. Central Command. These are what it describes as Iranian naval vessels being hit at long range. But they just kind of look like speedboats, don't they? Well, you wouldn't know it by looking at them, but these are the types of boats that are capable of bringing down an oil supertanker, or maybe even an American warship. Because Iran has retrofitted ships like these to be able to lay underwater mines, which are a top priority for the U.S. right now.
They just have to put 3 mines in there. And once an area is mined, it's never technically unmined.
After days of speculation, the U.S. now firmly believes Iran is laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz. If true, it would mean Iran is doubling down on the single most damaging way it has retaliated against the world, which is to block this crucial waterway right on its southern doorstep, where 1/5 of the world's oil flows out from the Middle East. It's serious enough to have caused the U.S. military to change course. From the president, if Iran has put out any mines in the Hormuz Strait, we want them removed immediately. Less than 1 hour later, the Secretary of War, at the direction of President Trump, Central Command has been eliminating inactive mine-laying vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, wiping them out with ruthless precision. 2 days later, an update from CENTCOM that now they're not just targeting mine-laying ships, they're also striking factories and warehouses where these mines are made and stored. Let me explain why these underwater mines are so devastating and why they're so hard to remove. In past videos, I've talked about how one of the world's most critical waterways also happens to be one of the easiest to disrupt. That's because of what you can see very clearly from up high, which is that it is incredibly narrow, a tight 2-lane shipping route, one way in, one way out, with very little room to navigate, and its entire length under the thumb of Iran, effectively its entire southern border. What's less obvious is how shallow the water is in the Strait and the Persian Gulf, only a few hundred feet deep, which, when you take all of these things together, is what makes mines in this choke point so effective. Iran is estimated to have thousands of underwater mines in its arsenal. In 2019, the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency put that number at more than 5,000, just its inventory, not counting how many more it might make. 5,000 including contact and influence mines. Let me explain the difference between those. Contact mines are the ones you typically see in movies. Those big spiky balls moored to the sea floor by chains, made buoyant with a pocket of air, and positioned at just the right depth to make contact with the underbellies of the ships you're targeting. These are very cheap to make.
Mines in general are very cheap. Contact mines, especially so. We could be talking about costs in the low thousands of dollars, and they can inflict millions of dollars in damage.
Now let me show you the contact mines Iran is known to make. The Maham-1. There are several in the series, but they all work the same way. They float, they can be chained in one place, and note the contact horns, with primers built in which detonate the bomb when dislodged. These can hold up to 120 kilograms, 260 pounds of explosives.
Contact mines can be quite devastating depending on the size of the vessel and the cargo they have.
The result is a gouging out a large part of the ship.
A second type of mine, though, influence mines, are a whole other kind of technology. You can think of them as smart mines. The Maham-2. These can be planted right into the sea floor where they listen, ready to detonate with up to 3 times the explosive force of the Maham-1. They work because ships, especially big ones like oil tankers and destroyers, they generate magnetic fields. They make noise. They displace water. They change the water pressure around them. And so these smart mines have sensors that detect these things. And once they found a target, they explode. And depending on the mine, it's not even the explosion itself that breaks the ship. It's the rapidly expanding bubble of gas, like a shockwave, traveling faster than any human can react, 1,000 or more meters per second. That has such explosive force, it can literally break a ship's backbone in 2.
And what it does is actually pick the ship up and then drop it. And what that could do is actually break the keel, break the hull. It'll cause massive shock damage through the vessel. It is the most dangerous way to damage a ship. It's probably the one that most fear.
Iran is believed to have these mines. Then there are the types of mines that combine everything I've mentioned so far together. The Mahan 3, moored, buoyant, and equipped with magnetic and acoustic sensors that allow it to listen in all directions, so that as a ship passes by, it can not only detonate at precisely the right moment to cause maximum damage, it can also be programmed with different sensor thresholds to target only certain kinds of ships, even submarines. As for actually getting these mines in place, according to US intelligence, Iran has equipped many of its Ashura small boats with mine rails, capable of holding at least one mine. Rails that would allow you to roll mines off a speeding boat like bowling balls, and the Ashura-class speedboat, fast, compact, agile, and cheap.
The problem with mines is it can be deployed by almost any platform. And the concern you have is small speedboats, which can carry, up to a few mines and deploy them. Maybe more ominously, fishing boats, which kind of blend in out there, having sailed through the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. Fishing boats are everywhere, and they don't always fly a flag for what nation they belong to. Small coastal vessels can be out there. You can use commercial vessels to do this. You can potentially drop them by helicopters, aircraft, and maybe even free fall rockets or missiles.
And what's really frightening for the US military is that Iran's mine technology doesn't even need to be as sophisticated as I've laid out to be really effective. This is a limpet mine. You could hold it in your hand, like a dinner plate. A combat diver would take one underwater, attach it magnetically to a vulnerable part of the ship, pull the safety like on a grenade, and once the diver's clear, boom.
We could see potentially, small fishing vessels go in, divers or remote vehicles being used, because you can create a very cheap kind of remote vehicle that just sails and plops up alongside of a ship and attach that mine.
And we know all of this, by the way, because Iran has used these weapons before, even in this exact area, just beyond the Strait of Hormuz in the Gulf of Oman. These are headlines from 2019, when several merchant ships were attacked. Iran, believed to be behind it then, and poised, apparently, to do so now again. The challenge for the US military is that these mines are just about as asymmetric as war can get. And by that I mean, Iran could spend as little as a few $1,000s building a pretty rudimentary mine that maybe doesn't sink a ship, but it damages it and executes what's called a mission kill, in that it causes just enough harm to force the target to turn away, to go for repairs, abort mission. The US could try to sweep the water for mines, but that's not only very difficult, it's very time-consuming.
It will take weeks, if not months, if there is an active minefield in the Persian Gulf, because you cannot do that under enemy fire. You have to do that under at least some form of ceasefire, and you can operate a mine clearing operation.
And literally, if you don't find them, that's not always the most comforting thing, because maybe you've missed them.
And so the US is confronted with this very familiar problem whenever it faces weaker opponents. And that is, as with open combat, the US is powerful enough to win eventually. Like in the Strait of Hormuz, it could position its navy nearby, use sonar, even autonomous robots to scan for mines, detonating them one by one from a distance. Or it could undertake a huge sweeping campaign where you literally drag equipment through the water, equipment meant to mimic the signatures of large ships, triggering mines with brute force. And you don't even have to remove every single mine. You just need to clear a lane, right? Mark them with buoys, create just enough space for shipping traffic to resume until Iran lays another mine, who knows where.
The biggest challenge of mine warfare is the plethora of unknowns. It's unclear how many mines are in the water if you haven't observed them being moved or dropped. It's unclear where the boundaries of the minefield are. Is it even a distinct minefield, or mines just distributed over a wide area? Then where the mines are specifically, of course, is deliberately a mystery.
It takes a grand total of 0 mines to create a minefield. It's just the threat of a mine requires you to go in and begin sweeping.
This is maritime guerrilla warfare, where success for Iran isn't about how many ships you can blow up. It's about how many ships you can make too afraid to be useful as ships at all.